For November the 18th, 2016, we talk about Bethesda's announcement of new Zen Pinball tables, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and we ask you how you get over difficulty walls in games. Welcome to Level 173. My name is Cole Rouse.
I'm Dennis Furia.
I'm David Smith.
And I'm Ben Merkel.
And you are listening to The Level. It's a podcast for people who love video games. Not all people, though. I'm specifically talking to you, Brian Wade, because you are the monster what walks like a man who tricked me into reading a quote from a novelization of a Star Wars movie after we met our goal for Duckstream this past Sunday. Okay, we hit $10,000, which is crazy, double our initial goal. And I was feeling raw, and I was feeling emotional, and I was just kind of giving the whole Jerry Springer final thoughts kind of thing, like, oh my gosh, isn't this amazing? In the face of everything that has happened over such a short period of time that we've come together. He puts a quote in there, and I read it, and I'm like, huh? And then he says, hey, you know where that's from? As though like, hey, you know what was in that chili, Cole? I took a dump in it. So Brian. I can't anymore. You just let me down, honestly.
Some people just want to watch the world burn.
Yes.
Jeez. So yeah, that's a thing that happened. Brian became dead to me, and also Duckstream was a huge success, and I can't thank
huge success.
Yeah, I can't thank everybody enough who helped out. Dennis, thank you for coming along. Ben, thank you for being there to push us over the hat counts with your strategically deployed donations. Huge thanks to Jeremy Greer and Allison Baker for picking up so I could sleep. Massive thanks to Steve Gaynor of Fulbright, and also have gone home for in the Portland tour, or for the Portland leg of things, going over to their house and hanging around and playing and even bringing them food. How crazy is that?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So all of that has been wonderful. I don't know. I had to. So what I had to do there was walk into that diagonally, so I didn't get emotional about the success. I had to use Brian as a sacrificial. I don't know.
Use some piss and vinegar to water down the tears.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Piss, vinegar, and tears, just like Mom used to make.
Oh. So, yep. So that's the big thing. Another thing. There's not going to be an episode next week because of Thanksgiving. Because I'm going to be out of town and all of that. So enjoy us while you got us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anybody else have anything going on?
No. Jen is traveling right now for work, so I'm super dad.
Okay. Well, you're podcasting. As those two kids just sleep. Huh.
Yeah, that's right. They went down around 7:30. No, I'm podcasting while juggling them, literally.
So you're doing it with one hand then?
Yes.
By definition, yeah.
Are you holding your mic?
He's actually contact juggling them like in Labyrinth?
Oh, no.
Oh, that's a great image. Yeah, no, I've got, I don't know if you know this, but I find for the best podcasting quality, I need to have a Bob Barker style microphone.
Oh, yeah. You know what, that was invented specifically because it wasn't invented by Bob Barker. The guy who invented that made it specifically so he wouldn't have to hold his hand as high up. He just wanted to be able to have his hand at chest level, and then up goes the microphone on that super thin neck.
Yeah, just can I get a break, please? These arms are not meant to be worked as hard as they are.
No. If it goes, if my elbow goes anywhere under a 90 degree, all of a sudden I get cranky. Yeah. Cool. Well, I don't see a reason to dally unless anybody else has anything big to say. We've got the usual kind of show for you: the brief, the multiplayer, and the grind. And let's get started with the brief, where we talk about things that are happening in the world of video games around us. Does anybody have anything they want to volunteer?
Yeah, I got a short one for you.
Okie doke.
Which is basically, two things that I love being slammed together, which is always nice. Zen Pinball which is probably one of the most well-known virtual pinball companies, posted an image to Twitter today that just says Bethesda Pinball and has the Vault Boy. Or is he officially called Vault Boy, or is it like Pip Boy, or
no? Vault Boy. Pip Boy is the computer that you carry around.
There we go. Okay, I was getting those two confused. Anyway, so the Vault Boy giving a big thumbs up next to an old timey pinball machine, which we can only assume means that some kind of Fallout pinball table is coming, which is fantastic and really exciting. The interesting thing is that the image says Bethesda Pinball, not Fallout Pinball, which is intriguing because Bethesda also does the Elder Scrolls, Doom, Wolfenstein, and Dishonored. So we could be seeing a whole fleet of pinball tables. We could be potentially seeing one pinball table that mashes up the styles, although I think that is unlikely. But there's Bethesda pinball tables in our future, which is exciting.
Man, a Doom pinball game would be great, wouldn't it?
I know, right? Like that would be so cool. I kind of it's interesting, like the announcement or the image that they posted for Fallout is very stylized and in line with the character of that game. So I would be interested to see what the pinball announcement for each game is.
Mm-hmm. See, I was thinking Dishonored, just all the rats.
But do you like the ability to blink your pinball? Yes, please.
So the like Zen Pinball, do they keep things to realistic pinball, or do they do kind of quirky stuff like that sometimes with their games?
So the physics are realistic. The tables are not, if that makes any sense. So, for example, on one of the Star Wars pinball tables, you can shoot your ball into a ship that will then proceed to like fly to another place on the table. So, there is, I think you could maybe semi-justify some of the stuff on their table with like really fancy magnets or high-tech whatever. And most of the stuff draws inspiration from actual pinball tables. So like having a spinner disc on the table to make the ball go random directions and that sort of thing. But they are certainly not shy about taking a liberty and doing something that wouldn't be physically possible in the real world if they think it serves the theme or would be really cool. But kind of the fundamental physics governing the ball are still pretty realistic.
Okay.
Can you give an example of something they would do that's not physical?
Not physically possible. Well, again, the ship like literally flying and hovering to another place. They have in another one of the pinball tables. I play a lot of the Star Wars tables. That's where all my examples are coming from. But like, Luke and Darth Vader walk out onto the catwalk halfway through the pinball match, the pinball round. I don't even know what you call that. And like have a lightsaber fight on the pinball table while you're playing. There's one where like Darth Vader like crushes the ball and destroys it, and then a new one gets injected into the table. So kind of none of the physics of how the ball moves is weird. It's kind of the physicality of what they're doing with the pieces of the table.
Yeah.
But most importantly, I am hearing that rats could be viable.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. So what this reminds me of is like something like a card game like Magic being taken by a studio like Blizzard and being turned into Hearthstone, where they can do different kinds of things that wouldn't technically be possible in a physical version of this of this game, like different rules. I'm like way into that. Like they've obviously built an engine that can recreate different things, different pinball tables, but like as real ones become, I don't know, less viable. I think maybe pinball tables and pinball is kind of having its weird little mini resurgence. I know nothing about pinball, so I'm so sorry if I'm saying something stupid.
You're on point.
Yeah. Having this right here where they can more readily do these adaptations feels like a wonderful niche for them to fill.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Ben, you might be interested. There is a Zen pinball table for Portal.
That does seem like a cool concept.
Yeah.
Can you control where the
although
portals
I feel
go?
like any scenario that doesn't involve me just placing a portal in between my two flippers is completely unrealistic.
I think to answer Ben's question, it involves portals, but I don't know if you can directly control their placement. I haven't played that specific table. I've just seen a brief video of it.
Is there like a gun in the middle of the game and it just rotates and shoots portals like every 90 degrees?
Something like that. They're the little force field barriers that you can walk along and stuff like that. So.
Neat. Well, this is cool. I saw this too, and I didn't want to take it because I figured you would, because I know you're a Zen boy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I've got a quick one here as well.
Oh wait, I almost forgot my sick burn.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, now there might finally be a Dishonored game that I like. Oh.
Ooh.
You haven't even played the second one. How do you know that there isn't already one that exists now?
Fair enough. I will keep an open mind. I expect to hear about that today. Am I gonna?
No.
Ah, Kole!
I've been too busy working.
No excuse. That's fine.
I've got a quick one here. Back around, not WWDC, one of the iPhone announcement. There we go. Gosh, this has been the longest fucking year. It was revealed that Nintendo is working on a Mario game for iOS, Super Mario Run, an endless runner style game that was being done. There were no details about release, no details about pricing. Both of those have changed. The release, it's coming out December the 15th. And the pricing, we knew that they were going to charge a single price and not have any free-to-play add-on kind of things with it. It is going to be $9.99. And praise God, hallelujah, I'm very happy about that.
How much did you think it was going to be?
I thought it was going to be $5. I'm just happy that it is not something like ridiculously low, because what that means to me is that they intend to put some wood behind the arrow and actually like make this thing, I don't know, kind of full featured and cool. Like that feels like $10 for a Nintendo iOS game feels right in a way that like $16 or $20 for an iOS game made by Square doesn't.
I mean, they don't make their game systems full featured, so they might as well make their mobile games.
Anyway, I think that this fits. Like this matches a little bit of my expectation for it. Obviously, they doubled the price, but I would much rather them, if they are going to be experimenting, I would like them to see it as possible, at least for somebody with their kind of name recognition, to make this kind of money. Because who knows, maybe they're going to swing they're going to get people used to spending money on mobile again. That is my incredibly optimistic and idealistic hope. But that is what I would like to see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch all the Mario likes pop up around it. Like the endless runner genre will get a fresh injection of just shovelware behind this as well.
Yeah. True that. Although I don't know, I'm pretty excited about this. In fact, when I saw that this was in the news, I had to go and check the App Store to make sure it wasn't available right now. Because I am pretty jazzed about this.
Very cool.
Yeah. David, you had a story, right?
Sure. So kind of a weird one. This was a personal article, so it's a little bit, opinion, but, it's also kind of a people discussing how things are going with virtual reality. And in particular, people discussing what they kind of describe as a hangover effect after playing virtual reality. The two big effects people are talking about is some difficulty in interacting with things. So, for example, when you're interacting with things in a virtual reality game, the game developers decide effectively how long your arms are. And so then when you get out of virtual reality, your brain has recalibrated to that length of your arms. So it feels like your hands are like passing through objects and stuff like that. Similarly, talking about some experiences of, they call it derealization more or less, from what I can tell from it, depression in terms of, the effectively temporarily having superpowers and then going back to the real world. So, and
that's interesting.
yeah, and it's, that part of it's a little bit getting into the, this is, I don't think they literally say this, but, this is what people are talking about on Reddit. But they do link to some, to a journal article that kind of researches some of this stuff. So it does sound like this could maybe, actually be a thing that people are going to have to deal with, or that, maybe people will learn to accept, or I don't know. I just think it's really an interesting side effect of this new technology.
Yeah, it's so the physical one I can totally see. The second one, it sounds a little bit like, do you remember when Avatar came out and there were like news stories about people are leaving this lush, colorful 3D world, and they're going back to their mundane lives, and it feels like there's like post-Avatar depression setting in, which sounds ridiculous to me. This possibly has a little bit more to that. I kind of wonder if that is something that will be ironed out as people get used to VR and like
Sure.
not actually, feeling like they're like lost in this thing.
Sure. Yeah, and I feel like from the article, I sort of feel like it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, in that on the one hand, I do think there's some of it that kind of smacks of that. On the other hand, they do, I feel like, describe it in a much more level-headed way than people, tend to with these sorts of things. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I put a link to that in the notes.
Sure.
It's
It's just interesting to me how easily the mind suspends disbelief. And I think, you probably heard, there's been plenty of movies set in like beautiful places, but it might have been especially potent with Avatar because you're watching it in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
And then you actually strap goggles to your face and are completely immersed in it visually anyway. Mm-hmm. And I could see that having an even more potent effect. Although, I tend to agree that people kind of enjoy being dramatic about it more so than it being an actual thing.
Yeah. I'm skeptical that it can be that convincing, or that it can be that encompassing. But then again, I haven't done it.
Yeah. It's just, even when you're most into a game you're playing, you're still fundamentally staring at a screen that's taking up like 50% of your visual field if you're sitting right in front of a monitor.
Yeah, you can still
way
see
less if you're in the living room.
Still see the edges. What I would like to see, and maybe it's not just for like this, but like I would wonder if developers would actually kind of experiment with almost like, how like divers have to come up from the depths really slow, or else they get the bends, like the nitrogen bubbles and stuff like that. I almost wonder if there's like a warm up and cool down period almost for this kind of stuff. Like, and you could probably mix like AR and VR with that, like where you're kind of like dripping in and then dripping out elements of the real world.
They do actually mention that to a certain degree, maybe some of it is right now VR is this very, very compelling technology that has absolutely no effect on the real world. And some speculation that maybe that's some of what people are experiencing. And with the idea that then maybe AR could be a little bit of the bridge to that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you guys, I'm finding myself more and more wanting to get a PlayStation VR.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's definitely the most accessible one.
Yeah, like looking at the holidays coming up, and especially David, if you kind of get your PS4 back at any point, I would have a really time buying myself a PS4 and not having it be a pro with VR.
Sure. I actually
that is a huge temptation.
I actually got to try today. One of the guys at the Hacker House where I'm staying is starting a company that basically does a VR app for meditation. And so I tested it out today, just like the cardboard, smartphone version, and it was actually pretty cool. Just kind of, they had like 3D or 360-degree videos of like a beach and some idyllic settings and just kind of a guided meditation type of thing. But it was pretty neat experience.
Yeah, that does sound cool.
Yeah.
So, I feel like with this though, I was kind of taking stock the other day, and I was thinking through, AR and VR and artificial intelligence are like the new technologies that every company's into. I just graduated from a hacker school. I live in kind of the slums right next to a Chinatown in the opulent financial district. Our government's a dystopia run by corporations, where a major news item in the last election was rampant hacking. It's like, wait a minute, life isn't supposed to have a genre. When did this become cyberpunk?
Yep. And like, we don't have any of the good stuff about the cyberpunk. We just have a whole bunch of bullshit.
Like, yeah, but I at least want replicants.
Oh, so you're saying that anybody at any time can try to make me feel bad just by typing into a text box? Okay. Well, fuck this.
Cyberpunk is not all it's cracked up to. It's all punk, not as much cyber as I wanted.
Ugh. The worst.
Would you? So here's something I think I would get VR for, is if they had like a space simulator where like you just have a camera that like floats around the Earth or whatever, like on a space station. That would be pretty cool.
That would actually probably be pretty easy to make with, if you were willing to just pay up for the rights to some of the really high quality spy satellite footage. You could get like a fairly high detail map of the world, and it would kind of be cool just to be able to like do super Google Maps.
I would wonder though, would that actually be able to send back data at a quick enough rate to have anything resembling a high frame rate? Like, would that be choppy?
I would say just record video and play it back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or even just a static image. I feel like if you could just literally, do a, 20 times speed, like sweep from New York to San Francisco, that'd probably be pretty badass.
Yeah.
It's like Truck Simulator, only way zoomed out.
I still do not understand those games.
People like them. People really,
they're
really
apparently
like them.
amazing.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't know. I think it's for me, it's a patience thing, just like most things.
Yeah.
So speaking of games that people like,
oh, there we go. I was trying to find a segue. Thank you.
So apparently Overwatch is going to be free to play this weekend from the 18th to the 21st. So for anybody who hasn't played it, they can do that this weekend.
Come see how much I suck at Overwatch.
No, that's great. Is this the first free thing they've done since the beta?
Maybe. I don't know.
I think there's been one free weekend.
Okay.
Since then. So Ben, will you be playing it? I'm guessing on PS4.
I don't know. I haven't committed to anything yet. So maybe so, maybe no.
Well, what I will say is our Slack channel has an absolutely amazing Overwatch community that is just so active and supportive, and people are down to play pretty much any time. You can find a good group of people who actually uses the in-game chat and coordinates and doesn't freak out if you don't go Mercy when they want you to. So it's a good time to play and a great group to play with.
And they play on PS4 or PC?
There's a mix. The PC group is definitely larger, but there are people that play on PS4.
Okay, cool.
We don't acknowledge their existence. We kind of they're the outcasts that make us all feel better about ourselves.
I see.
Has this been released on Xbox?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I never hear about it.
Yeah.
And that's not like a quality judgment or anything. I just never hear people talk about playing it there.
That's just I feel like that's a blind spot of the podcast in general.
Yeah, but if I had like an Xbox One, I would just be playing the same shit that I'd be playing otherwise. Like, oh, hey, Kole, what'd you get this week? Oh, Dishonored. Which system? Well, I got an Xbox One instead of PS4 this time.
Yeah.
It all depends on what the GameStop pre-orders are.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Multiplayer.
Now it is time for the multiplayer, where we ask you a question and you answer it. Dennis, what is the question?
Yeah, this is a question that was submitted by listener Raghavan, so thank you for this. And the question is, we've all hit sticking points in games, difficulty walls that you just can't seem to get past. How do you go about getting yourself unstuck when you find yourself in that situation?
Nice. And I'll pick up here first with Roop, who says, usually I have to vent it out on something. Throwing the controller, taking a walk, or doing the dishes. Something else to focus on. And while doing something else, I think about my strategies for overcoming the game. Yeah. I also clean. That is one of my coping strategies for this. Not just for games, but for everything. I think that it is important to change scenery, especially if you're feeling stuck.
How do I make my coping mechanism cleaning instead of binge eating? Like, I want
I don't know. It's I think that we're all, a lot of us are born with the coping mechanisms that we fall to.
Yeah, my God.
What if you binge ate and cleaned the dishes as you ate from them?
Yeah, like what if you just binge ate the dirt on all of your furniture, and then just we call that mouth dusting.
I'll tell you what. I will open, eat, and then rinse out this bag of potato chips. How does that sound?
Man, you should have seen inside this potato chip bag before. It was a fucking nightmare. Ben, what does Derek say?
Derek says, I start by sleeping on it. If I get stuck, I get frustrated. If I get frustrated, it's even harder for me to succeed. If some time away doesn't help, I'll look around online for ideas or solutions other people have had. It's almost a guarantee that somebody has thought of something I haven't tried yet.
Yeah. Depends on how old the game is, too. And whether or not it has a game FAQ, whether or not there is any kind of useful YouTube content for this game.
Do you run into that on Abject Suffering?
Oh no, I never. If I get stuck on a game in Abject Suffering, I think I try like 2 or 3 times, then I move on to the next one.
Gotcha.
Yeah. David, what does Ollie say?
Ollie says, if it's a difficulty wall, I take a break. Think it through and come back to it later. Eventually, I'll get the timing and technique down. Screw you, Calamit. If it was a puzzle problem, I'd give it a few goes, then just check it on the net. Time is too precious to waste on that kind of thing. And nobody got time for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can only be stubborn for you can only be stubborn for so long. Yes, the first time you go for an answer, it's going to make it that much easier to go check for an answer again later. But like, what is more valuable, seeing the rest of the game or having your pride?
Yeah, I feel like I wish someone would make a guide that for each puzzle just had listed, is it clever or not? And so that if it's not clever, I could just look up the answer.
Yeah, that's a thing. I wish that more recent games had universal hint system stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. Just because that is, I think that is a little bit of a way to find it.
Yeah, most modern games don't have bullshit anywhere near on the level of the way old games had, though.
I don't know. I don't have the data to be able to tell.
I think I can agree with you on that.
I feel like the one that's still around that kind of annoys me is the whole, you have to talk to this person like 5 times when they blow you off in order to somewhat symbolize you being really dogged, but I only tried 4 times.
Oh yeah, that happens in Dark Souls a lot.
Dark Souls. I'm thinking real early on in Undertale.
Yeah.
I could see that. Let's see here. That was... I'm sorry, I already lost track of who did what. Dennis, what does Patrick say?
Patrick says, this isn't a technique I broadly apply, but it did work for me this one time. During my first playthrough of Dark Souls, I hit the infamous wall that is Ornstein and Smo. One night I had made several attempts and decided to take a break and have a few drinks, but I left the game on near the bonfire before all of the Silver Knights. A bit tipsy, I figure, why not give it a try before bed? This is a thing people do, right? Cue one of the most heart-pounding experiences I've had in Dark Souls. I managed to land the finishing blow on Super Ornstein with 3 Estus to spare, only realizing afterward that I had gained 4 extra Estus from leaving the game on and people kindling that bonfire. So I guess that's one for both walking away and for... I guess that's one for both walking away for a bit and coming back to it in a different mental state, whether that's chemically induced or not.
Little so you heard it here first. Dark Souls does have drunken kung fu.
I mean, it's a little bit like this is a terrible thing to say, but if somebody is drunk and they get into a car accident, they have a better chance of surviving because they don't lock up as much. They're more loosey-goosey, so they're less likely to get injured. They're more likely to get into an accident in the first place, but Dark Souls is not driving, and I think what we're seeing here is a lack
Dark Souls is a car crash.
None of us can look away. Yeah. No, that's it's weird. I wonder, so I've never been entirely clear what gaining extra heals from sticking around kindled bonfires was all about. I wonder if it's exactly that. Like if they meant for it to be used that way.
Could be, yeah. I wasn't aware that mechanic was even in the game, that you could heal up above your normal amount.
Yeah. It just I think it's only the first one. That's what I've noticed it anyway. It's just like if you hang around and somebody happens to kindle that bonfire, then you just get an extra heal.
Okay, nice. So I had observed it happening, but I never had realized that that's what caused it.
The game doesn't explain it.
Yeah. I'm convinced that Dark Souls 3 though is delays giving you rewards for someone rating your messages to until you already have full flasks.
Yep. I mean, otherwise, what else? What would be the point? Sam writes, I step away from the game. If I don't feel like I was enjoying the game enough, I don't bother coming back to it. In the case of something like Dark Souls or The Witness, where I repeatedly get stuck, but still like the game, I give it a few more tries and then check a FAQ to get past the sticking point. If it's a matter of execution rather than not knowing what to do, I drop the difficulty down if possible, or summon some help. In my opinion, higher difficulty levels are reserved for games that I actually like enough to play through multiple times anyway.
Yeah, word.
Makes sense.
All of that is very reasonable. Let's see here. Ben, what does Michael say?
Michael says, I'm hard-headed, so I usually keep trying way longer than I should. I'll keep fighting far beyond the point of dignity. If that fails, I'll dive into a Rocky-esque training spree. If I have to retreat, I'm going to make damn sure I finish the job the second time.
That's good.
I like that. When I was streaming this past weekend, especially Resident Evil 0, the bullshit that game pulls on you so much of the time, people are like, Kole, just quit this game. Like, just go on to the remake. You'll make it to Resident Evil 2. You'll be fine. I would have quit so long before. Like, you guys don't understand. I'm doing this for the kids.
Just turn on Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah, it's like, you know that quitting isn't an option, right? Yeah. David, what does Ragavan say?
Ragavan says, my technique is to just completely turn off the game audio. Especially in the Souls games, it helps a lot because boss themes feel so epic and monumental that part of my brain actually starts listening and I get out of the zone. So without the audio, I can easily establish flow again. Try it the next time you're stuck. Just like in a horror movie, you'd be surprised how much of the difficulty is induced by the music.
Damn it, Ragavan, you took one of mine.
Yeah.
Although,
I
feel
can't
like-
not now think though of like the Dilbert guy who tweeted that he doesn't ever listen to music because he doesn't want to accidentally influence his mood.
Fuck Scott Adams. Fuck
Yeah.
him. Sorry.
Wow.
he's a piece of human garbage. Fuck him. But yes, that is a ridiculous thing for that awful person to say.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry, I triggered Kole. I didn't realize.
Yeah, I know. You hit a nerve, man.
Continue. Go ahead.
Not warranted.
Yeah.
Although I feel like for at least a lot of bosses, I really rely on the audio cues in order to know when they're firing an attack and I need to roll.
I think that's a little bit what Ragavan is saying too. When they say you can turn down the volume, most games, even Dark Souls, let you turn down the music in addition to.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so you
Yeah,
just
that
go into
makes
the audio as opposed to just sitting mute on your TV.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't know. He says turn off the game audio. Period. So
Oh,
maybe everything, or it could just be the.
yeah.
What we're hearing is that Ragavan is like inverse Daredevil.
I will say that I find visual cues to be way more useful than the audio cues when it comes to Souls games. I feel like a lot of the whoosh or the smash of whatever coming down on you, especially for attacks that are meant to be quick and surprising, are actually subtly visually telegraphed before you can get a read on them from an audio standpoint.
Yeah.
And to be fair,
good.
I guess I'm mostly thinking of magic-based boss fights where you're generally not locked on and are doing a lot of running around. So
Yeah.
I feel like maybe actually I'm thinking more of a special case.
I mean, there are melee enemies that will like scream or do something in addition to their wind up that telegraphs it.
Oh yeah, I mean more like the Aldrich fight where like most of the time, or a lot of the time he was like behind me, or where he wasn't actually on screen.
Yeah.
So.
Nope, I can see that. But it's but Ragavan has it's a very good idea, and I recommend people do that.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah. Dennis, what does Graham say?
Graham says it comes down to a few basics. If I'm stuck with an insurmountable boss or puzzle, I'll just find something else to do in the game for a little while. This might mean grinding a bit or whatever. Turning off the game for a bit is also an idea because coming back to a problem after a bit gives me a refreshed mindset that might figure out how to proceed. If the problem continues, I'll go to the internet for a hint or some pointers. Yeah, that's a good kind of going to from DEFCON 1 to 2 to 3 or what would 3 to 2 to 1 whatever way DEFCONs go.
Goes from high to low.
Yeah, I'm not going to correct you.
Go.
I'm not going to be a caricature of myself. Yeah.
I know you know.
Don't
Tell
worry,
me.
I'll
Play
I'll
Twilight
pick up on
Struggle
the
Pool,
slack
you
for
know.
that one.
Yeah, it's no, but having an order of operations for this does make sense. Yeah. Stephen writes, it depends on the wall. If it's a puzzle of some sort, I'll try to look at it from a different angle, literally, whether it be finding an image of what's causing the problem and mirroring it, or actually turning my head sideways, will usually detach me from the sense of familiarity I've built up that's causing the block. If it's a boss that I just can't get my dumb meat hands to do what I need to do, I look up a video of someone else doing it. Not necessarily to copy their tactics, but more just to prove to myself that it can be done, and that usually works. Fuck, Steven took mine too. I was going to do the audio one.
Off one by one.
Yeah. Okay, so I just don't have to do mine at the end. That is also very smart. Like, usually, again, just like looking at something like Dark Souls, but for anything else, a lot of the times you see the patterns and you know them, and it's not a matter of spoiling the fight for yourself, unless you actually like look at a later phase of the fight or something. Like, even just looking at it and knowing that it's possible to do.
That is especially effective for puzzle games.
Yep. But where you can see the solution. Yeah. Yeah. And that first one about looking at it from a different angle actually reminds me of a proofreading trick that I've learned. And I do this on a lot of my scripts. If you read them backwards, not necessarily like Twin Peaks, like, you know, they sued, but it's better. Not like that, but actually like reading it from the bottom line upward, just each sentence backward, helps you break out of your just kind of complacency with a thing. And I could see what Steven's talking about also working.
Probably be hard to critique flow if you did that, but yeah.
Well, no, I mean, like it's just one thing that you do in addition to a bunch of other stuff. Unless you're talking about the actual game Flow by that game company.
Yeah.
Did you see the reverse speedrun of Flow? It was amazing.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to happen, but I watched a video of it and I found out it was possible, so we're all good.
It was just called Wolf.
No, you killed us. We're dead now.
I just dad joked you from nuclear orbit. Nuclear dad joked you.
Do you want to go where I put Brian, Dennis? Ben, what does Eric say?
Eric says, you message Jeremy Greer and ask him to help, of course. He helped me through Demon Souls.
Yep, and he helped me through the Chalice dungeons when I was doing those for Bonfireside Chat.
Nice.
Yeah. Jeremy's a solid
Jeremy Greer, the
good guy Greer.
The Reagan of difficulty walls.
What? Oh, yeah, to tear these down. I got you.
Yep.
I've heard he's the worst, but
no, that's Brian now. Come on. David, what does Nathan say?
Similar to Patrick Clark's experience, there's a special mixture of not caring and a certain blood alcohol level that can carry me through tough bosses. Side note, this also works with work. The trick is to stop drinking after I get unstuck, or else I'll boot up the game the next day and be completely lost.
Yeah. State dependent memory. Then all of a sudden you have to be drunk every time you play. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that what you tell people?
It's for my job. Let's see. Dennis, what does Greg say?
Greg says, when I get stuck in a game, it depends on the type of game. For an RPG, strategy sim, or something similar where it's a deep game, I'll try it several times more, taking a break and coming back several hours or days later as needed. And then if I'm still stuck, go online and find a guide or walkthrough. If it's an old school platformer, action game, something of the same vein like that, that's when I break out the cheats and or save states if I'm still beating my head against the wall. I'll do the best I can to get past that point without help, but at the end of the day, I feel it's more important to get past it and proceed having fun than just being stuck.
Amen.
Yeah, save states are so crucial when you're playing those old games.
Yep. No, we use them on WAF all the time. I mean, and it's only partially because, we're usually in a time crunch when we're doing that.
No true retro game podcast.
Hey, thanks, Gatekeeper. I'm happy somebody's here to make sure we're all pure.
Yeah. I'll go throw myself off a tower now.
Okay, I'm just keeping track. James writes, I dash myself against the wall repeatedly until I am a hollow shell of a man. I then achieve samsara, and through the pure aesthetic power, I accomplish my goal. By which I mean I sob into my Doritos and summon 3 phantoms. Screw you, nameless king. No matter how much this is me talking now, not them. I was using my reading voice for that. No matter how much I sob, no matter how many Doritos there are, no matter how many summons, I still have not beaten the nameless king, and I don't intend to.
Let's see, is that in Dark Souls 3?
Yes.
All right, so I'm on the path to get there before you. I like it.
Just getting to the nameless king sucks.
I like that stage an awful lot.
It's a cool stage. It's just really annoying to navigate.
Yeah. Ben, what does Evan say?
Evan says, when I get stuck, I usually give up and come back to the game a year later. By then, I've forgotten how to play and have to start over. Relearning the game, knowing how I got stuck before, usually does the trick.
Huh.
It's the long game right there. I did that with Ratchet and Clank so many times, where I'd get partway through that game, and then wander off, and then start again from scratch, and wander off. Like I have a 5-year relationship with that game where I've just never actually gone all the way through.
I mean, depending on the kind of game, that actually might make a lot of sense, because like if it's any kind of game where your mistakes can kind of cumulatively follow you, starting from the beginning, whether or not it's a substantial amount of time later, might actually make a big difference for you, just because you're able to kind of build back up without having made those mistakes.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's see. Who read that one? I'm sorry.
I did.
That was Ben. Hey, David, what does Chris say?
Chris says, I let it cause a heart attack, and then the time spent in the hospital during recovery usually helps fuel me to come back a winner.
That is determination. Maybe he's the true retro gamer that we need for a podcast. Dennis, what does Tim say?
Tim says, I'll bang my head against the wall for a while and then take longer and longer breaks to let my mind find the answer absently. If it doesn't come to me, I'll either use a fact or move on to the next game without out of bullheadedness. Woo!
Yeah. Echoing some previous things that we've seen so far. Phil says, often it's solved by a good night's sleep or a short break. Usually if I'm getting frustrated with something, my brain gets a bit muddy, and I can't solve the problem until I attack it at another time. That is a thing, right? Him saying muddy actually made me think of like trying to get your car out of a mud hole or like a snow or something like that, where just revving the engine makes the problem worse.
Yeah, it digs you in.
Yeah. Finally here, Ben, what does Jeremy say?
Jeremy says, it's an obvious answer, but I just walk away after a few tries. Well, I should say that my brain tells me to walk away, and the rest of me says, screw you, brain. Why are you such a stubborn bastard? Now let's keep doing this thing, stubborn, or even if it kills us. After a while, the rest of me catches up with my brain, and I finally decide to walk away. Usually, I come back to whatever I'm playing and somehow have figured it out without really thinking about it. As for the difficulty walls, I got on the Dark Souls bandwagon fairly late, 2015. Despite completing Demon Souls, Dark Souls, and most of Dark Souls 2 in the last year, I started Dark Souls 3 and quickly said, nope, that's it. This is where I get off. I'm sure I'll pick it up again one day, but with being a stubborn bastard and all. Yeah, but with being a stubborn bastard and all.
That's funny.
Is Dark Souls 3 radically different than the others or anything like that?
No, it's really hard. I think it's harder than the other ones.
Okay.
Yeah. Has more quality of life stuff, but it is harder in a lot of ways.
Yes. I shall now finally conquer Dark Souls 1.
I like how we've stopped dancing around like whether or not we're going to talk about Dark Souls on the question, and we just ask a question about Dark Souls now.
I mean, it's so hard to avoid. Like, I don't know when we decided not to talk about Dark Souls on this show. Makes sense. Mm-hmm. We have so many people from that side of things over here. Just lean into it, man. Fuck it. Live life to the hilt.
We're not so much deciding not to talk about Dark Souls. We were deciding not talk about Dark Souls.
You lost me.
Yeah.
Double negatives are hard.
Did you say yeah after you said you lost?
I lost myself in there somewhere.
Yeah. Wait a minute. What happened?
Yeah.
What? I think mainly this is just the excuse for this is something I didn't get to talk about since I was away for like a month. I think the big thing I found with Dark Souls that totally changed things for me is being told that the way rolling works is invincibility frames.
Oh yeah.
And just realizing that I didn't actually have to dodge the attack. I could roll directly through a sword, say. That was, I think, the number one thing that allowed me to like not be just completely banging my head against Dark Souls.
Yeah, it's one of those things that like when somebody described that to me first, I was like, that sounds like some fighting game bullshit. I don't care about that. I don't want to do that. But it's totally the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you everybody for answering yours, and answering the question. You guys already gave mine, the turn off the music, and also take a look, not just to spoil the fight for yourself, but just to ascertain that it's possible. Ben, how about you? How do you untie that knot?
So yeah, I think it depends on the problem. So The Witness is the game that's coming to mind right now, where that game is filled with problems that are fair, and it gives you enough information to solve it. And with all those problems, I would patiently/impatiently wait to solve them. But that game also has a lot of Easter eggs and a lot of like hidden problems. I looked all of those things up. I was not going to meditate in that game for weeks on end to find everything. So
yeah.
I think that's a good example of like the boundary line for me.
Makes sense. David, how about you?
Well, I think to be fair, as my backlog says, there's a significant chance I just give up and stop playing it. But more in the spirit of the question, I tend to do a lot of kind of the walk away and think about informed strategies. And I'd also say, like, I tend to do a lot of kind of, going around the periphery and, kind of picking at the problem until it sort of unravels, especially in, like, a lot of the more, like, open world, third person, Deus Ex things. I tend to just kind of wander around and, pick off guards here and there or whatever until, the problem solves itself.
Just some mindless killing to get some weight off your shoulders.
It makes the world go round.
If only you weren't right. Yeah. Dennis, how about you?
Yeah, so I think for me, first off, there is a huge amount to be said about knowing when to walk away. And for me, it's if a game at any point makes me stand up, that's when I know I've had it. Because definitely I get to the point where like something. That is a great question. I hadn't considered it from that. I'm standing up for a different reason in that. That is more of a pacing and considering. I'm talking about no, you couldn't. How did that? And if I find myself standing up, screaming obscenities. Or hoarsely whispering them if I'm playing after everyone's asleep at the TV. That's when I know that it's gone too far. But I think for me it's all about breaking it down into chunks, a little bit like what David was saying. But I'll go into a boss fight and say, all right, I'm not going to get hung up on actually beating it this time. I just want to get through the first phase without taking any damage. It's like I want to, I'm gonna master the first part of this fight, and then I'll worry about the other stuff some other time. Or I'm gonna make sure that the run up to this boss I clear perfectly, or I figure out how to run through it. Or like a racing game, it's like I just want my first lap to be sub X amount of time, and that's what I want to do. Versus like I need to finish the entire thing in this amount of time, and that helps get me through.
Makes sense. Set reasonable, measurable goals. SMART.
Just walk away, dude. Walk away.
Got no window.
It's so easy to walk away because I'm already standing up,
Cool. Well, thank you everybody for responding to that. If you want to participate in these, watch our Facebook page on Tuesday afternoons, sometimes early evenings. Thanks to both Dennis and Jala for putting those up, and for the community for suggesting them. The grind. Now it is time for the grind, where we talk about the things that we have been playing. I'm gonna go. Ain't played shit.
Boom.
Well, you played a lot of some shit.
Oh, I played a lot of some shit, but I already talked about Resident Evil 0 last time. I'm not in favor of it. It'll be a very long time, if ever, if I play it again, unless it's for some kind of assignment thing, obviously. But yeah, that game has some very fundamental problems that were on full display. And as I mentioned before, people were telling me, Kole, just stop. Why are you doing this to yourself? But again, I was doing it, for a good cause. So onward and upward.
So I left Duckstream on overnight, while I was sleeping or whatever. And I woke up sometime around 6 a.m. or something like that. And I heard you say well, that game's finally over, and just like sound completely upset. Sorry, dude.
Yeah, I did it to myself. So the story behind that, I had recently gotten Resident Evil 0, like the remaster, on like a Humble Bundle kind of thing. It was like a Capcom, and I was like, oh, it had been forever since I played it. I remember having trouble with it before, but like, oh, it's been about like 8 years since I played it, something like that. And it's like, okay, well, why not throw it up there? If I'm going to do Resident Evil like I thought it, like I said I was going to, why start at just the first one, when I could do a whole bunch of the pretty ones? Like, 0 is a pretty game. But yeah, that just ended up being a mistake. I think I would have had a lot more fun if I started with the remake, which is really good and fun, and then just went on to Resident Evil 2, which is really good and fun. So, lesson learned. Yeah, but yeah, the remake is the other one, and that is also good and fun. Like I said before, the update. So I think that's frustrating. This is the first time that I played the PS4 version, like the re-release that happened. For as antiquated as tank controls can feel, and for as easy as the whole you press the direction you want to go and you go in that direction, like how easy that scheme makes the game, in terms of getting away from people. They didn't take enough care, or they didn't tune it just right to where when you're running from fixed camera angle to fixed camera angle, you don't just immediately turn around and run in a different direction. So if you watch the stream and if you play it yourself, you'll probably notice this happening where like you'll run across a seam between scenes and just kind of like jitter back and forth as the game kind of like tries to reorient you. And that's not cool.
Yeah.
I didn't switch it back over to tank controls just because, again, that smoothness and the quickness that it gives you kind of trivializes the combat in a way that is good for if you're playing this game to show it to people, right? But yeah, that navigational problem really is a big bummer in an update that generally is really good. Although, for as pretty as Resident Evil 0 is, and especially in the update, the remake HD or Resident Evil HD remaster or whatever it is, God, this gets so confusing. There are certain scenes that you can tell they just didn't bother upscaling.
Interesting.
Like especially like in the basement of the residence of the guardhouse. So you'll see like, oh, that's just like straight up JPEG compression. Like somebody just scaled this up, and like they didn't do anything to like make the background assets high res. So it's like, wow, that's kind of some garbage. Yeah. But yeah, those are the two things that I've been playing. I have Dishonored 2, and I installed that today. I meant to play it a little bit, but like today it completely got away from me as I've been working on getting Radio Free Midworld launched. And I know, right? Caught me by surprise. But yeah, no dice. I hope to have more to talk about with that next time. Besides just the installation experience, man, it sucks installing things on consoles. I don't like that one bit.
Yeah,
never have. Oh well. So yeah, that is mine. Who wants to go next?
Sure, I can go.
Okay.
So, strangely enough, I'm going to pick up the slack, and I've been playing Dishonored.
Oh wow.
Except not that one.
The first one?
Yeah, so Dishonored 1 was real cheap on Steam, and I recently found out that if I dual boot, I can actually run some relatively modern games on my Mac. So I picked it up, and despite my previous hatred of it, now that I actually have mouse and keyboard controls, and most notably can save anywhere I want, I'm actually enjoying the game a lot.
Nice.
I still feel like there's some significant.
I'm sorry. What's that, David? You're breaking up. Cut him. No, cut him now.
Go to commercials.
Cut him when he stopped agreeing with you. I don't get it. What?
Yes, we cannot have people falling to the. No, go ahead. Sorry.
He already said the nice things about the game. He was about ready to temper that. So,
Okay, well
So-
then you may continue.
Yeah, so I do feel like, and I'd kind of actually be interested to get some feedback, because I know, actually, of our group, I've probably played the least stealth games. I feel like their stealth model is still a little wonky, in that, it seems like sometimes enemies, notice you in just unpredictable ways. And similarly, I feel like sometimes kind of their model of you making sound is, sometimes doesn't actually add to the gameplay, and it's just kind of annoying. Especially considering if you're crouching, that you can jump from like 15 feet and land without making a noise. But if you bump into a pot or something, people like in another room over will hear you. But I've also dogs are just pure evil in this. But yeah,
Why
so
do you say that?
it's basically, unless you have the ability to stop time, it's impossible to take out a dog without its owner detecting you.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, killing a dog always makes noise. Even if you do some sort of stealth kill, it always at least makes noise, and that means that if another enemy is anywhere nearby, they'll hear you. So the only way to take them out silently is to stop time and then take out everyone that could hear it.
Oh man.
Yeah. So far I just got done with the first I guess pseudo assassination, and I'm about to go on to the second one, and right now I'm doing pacifist run or whatever. So yeah, I mean, so far it's been pretty cool. I really love the world they're building.
Yep.
I don't know. I think of the games I've played, I think it maybe has some of the strongest world building of maybe anything outside of like a Dark Souls.
It's I mean, the guy who is in charge of the world especially is they got him from the Half-Life 2 team. Like it is very much like it has that fingerprint on it.
Yeah, yeah, and that makes sense, because I mean, there's I really love, just taking like the whaling thing, just how many of the game kind of mechanics point to that. The fact that you collect scrimshaw and all of the like traditional British style candied fish that you were probably not meant to eat, and stuff like that, and just all of those elements. I think it's interesting that this is a straight up very, very dark Lovecraftian game that's not a survival horror game, which is interesting.
Yeah.
The story wise, maybe the only thing I'd criticize it for is I feel like some of the time it gets a little bit too heavy on just being depressing just because. Just like if you use the heart to like listen in on like your allies, like half of them are suicidal, and that just seems like a little bit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah, I really enjoy it. I'm interested to see kind of where it goes. What it does with some of the story elements. It seems like it's kind of got a real interesting, morally ambiguous angle going on that I think could be cool.
It does, yeah. Especially like some of the non-violent endings for different missions are incredibly fucked up.
Worse than death.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like just you would have done them a favor if you just killed them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, and similarly, like it's not you don't appear to really be doing anything about the the plague. Like you're not really there to actually make things better in any real way. And similarly, it seems fairly questionable whether the outsider is a good guy. Like there's a lot of it's got a little bit of the Dark Souls where it's like you're doing a thing, but it's not exactly clear whether you should be doing a thing.
Right.
So
I'm really curious to see how a sequel is possible.
how what?
How a sequel is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's obviously I have no idea where it goes. Would you say that regardless of which ending they consider canon?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it'll be interesting. So, the one thing that strikes me as weird is like the original pitch I heard for this game. Yeah, I always described it, kind of joked as this being Steampunk the Crow. And the original pitch I'd heard from it was that you actually straight up like get killed, and that's kind of your your how you get your powers. And I wonder was that ever actually in the story or anything? Because just kind of the way you do silent protagonist in this doesn't seem to quite work unless your character is meant to just be some sort of like straight up personification of revenge.
Mm-hmm.
But none of the characters really treat you that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like similarly, like none of the characters seem to at all comment on like you having supernatural powers.
I mean, they're kind of complicit in you, like you're useful for especially like your home base,
Yeah. It's just like that interaction. It just seems a little like your character almost explicitly doesn't have a personality, and despite the fact that like before all this they kind of present him as being like Corvo family man.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
so
I don't know.
Also, sorry, I one more thing. I also feel like they've got a little bit of kind of the Rapture syndrome, in that I feel like they kind of maybe needed to make a stronger case for why this was a world that was ever worth saving, because all signs point to the place sucked long before the rat plague.
Yeah. And that also casts some uncertainty about whether or not the chaos actually matters.
Sure.
Like which of those endings ought to be canon. Yeah.
Sure.
No, I think that you're noticing
Sweet,
you're noticing good things about it. I think that you're engaging with it on a good level.
Yeah. I'm very, very, very cool with what they're doing.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. So now we're going to outnumber Ben and Dennis.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Wait. No,
Does your vote counts for two?
What's that?
Does your vote count for two, Kole?
No, Jala likes it.
Jala's a fan.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, I thought Jala disliked it.
No, Jala likes it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember her talking about it. It's just she came on board after we had our really big initial disagreements about this. Yeah. Cool. You have anything else, David?
No, that's about it.
Cool. Let's see. Who among you, Ben or Dennis, people who do not like Dishonored, wants to go next?
You don't have a voice anymore. No, I can go real quick.
Okay.
I finished Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, and I started Bloodborne. That's probably the biggest thing.
Nice. Did you do all of the DLC on Dark Souls 2?
I did, yep. So I did all the DLC. That final boss fight in Ivory King is epic beyond belief.
That's so good.
So good. And very thankfully, I had someone, I forget who, because it's all Twitch usernames, and that's different than actual usernames, but someone pointed out to me that I was missing one of the knights that could join me, which I think paved the way very nicely.
Yeah.
But I feel like so many of those boss fights have come down to one of those moments where it's like, all right, if I attack and I hit him first, I win. But if I am just slightly too slow, he wins. And it's that decision point where it's like, all right, who's got the nuts? And and that's just a great feeling when a boss fight comes down and is that close, and you prevail. When it's that close and you lose, that's a stand up moment, and I have to go walk away somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It almost reminds me of there's idea in martial arts that, you know, sometimes even reckless offense is the right idea, because there's sort of this idea that, you know, as time goes on, your chance of getting killed approaches 100%. And I feel like, you know, sometimes with what you're talking about, it almost becomes that, where it's like making a foolish move that will immediately win could be actually the best chance of survival you have, type of thing.
Yep. Yeah. Well, especially like with the Fume Night, which is from the second DLC, I believe.
Yeah.
It's you definitely get into that stage where it's like, all right, I'm just dying really slowly here. Like I'm using all of my stamina to roll away and dodge, and I'm not getting any attacks in. And I can stay in this arena with this boss for a good long while doing that, but I'm not gonna win at any point. I'm just gonna delay death. So that's definitely got a case of that. I beat the game as a hexer, where I had big ass Crypt Black Sword in one hand and my wand or my staff in the offhand, so no shield. And that's the first time I've played a Souls game like that. And I think that really aided my transition into Bloodborne, where a shield is not really a feasible or desirable option, I should say. And so that's I people had told me like, hey, it's kind of a shock, or there's a lot different there, but I actually felt like the transition was very natural, probably because I was already accustomed to the dodge or die kind of mechanic. So that went well, and kind of dipped right into it. I really like what I'm seeing of it so far.
How far have you gotten?
Where am I at right now? I just got to the area that opens up the second headstone from the Hunter's Dream. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, you got to the frontier.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. So I'm just in that area.
Which one's frontier? Is there anything non-spoilery you can tell me about?
It's like when you get out of the city. So like either when you get to Hemwick or when you get to the Forbidden Woods.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, you start seeing ladies with the like hot pokey things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that area is fun.
Yeah, Hemwick is great. Definitely play that.
It's got a lot of jumps in it. Which I appreciate, and that goes back to the whole sound thing. But it has highlighted one of the big changes for Bloodborne is occasionally, and I haven't figured out the logic behind when this happens or not, but when you die, instead of you leaving kind of like a soul stain on the ground to go pick up, it actually absorbs into an enemy, oftentimes the enemy that killed you.
Yep. It absorbs into an enemy that walks over it. There will be a blood stain. If you come back to it, but if you die on the path, then an enemy will walk, then they will take it on. Fortunately, they don't get stronger by it, but
yeah, thank God.
Oh, see, I thought they said they did.
No,
they just get glowier.
Yeah.
But that is so infuriating, especially if you die to a strong enemy at the end of a long string of stuff. It's like if I could, I would just run back, grab my souls, and go level up, because I had 15,000. But god damn it, I get there and it's absorbed into a guy, so I have to finish this fight. Like, I've got no other option. And I've pissed more souls down the drain that way than any other way.
Yeah, that's one of two things, that along with not automatically refilling your vials, that I would argue are straight up mistakes.
I don't know.
I have not had any trouble being at max vials, max bullets for the majority of the game.
That'll change.
Oh boy.
Yeah. It's a thing where like as you go along, the like your net gain on those things is going to get smaller and smaller until eventually you are going to have to farm. They've made it better since launch. Like if you played it anytime in like the first 4 months that Bloodborne was out, then it was kind of a pain in the dick. They made it a little bit better, but the system still exists, and it's not necessarily advisable for it to still exist.
Yeah. It's better than in Demon Souls.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, worse than the Estus Flask. What I will say though is the quick dodge when you're locked onto an enemy instead of a full out roll adds a level or a layer to combat that I didn't know I was missing. So where it makes it feel more interactive, I guess, especially because you can follow up a quick dodge with a special strike if you time it right. And I really, really like that. And I think it will be hard to go back to Dark Souls where you will always kind of do a full roll. Even if it's a quick roll, you're doing a full roll before re-engaging.
Yeah.
And kind of striking right after rolling in Dark Souls is usually an edge case. Like usually you kind of want to get reset and get back into your normal attack patterns. I feel like in Bloodborne it's really built around this, not just dodging and leveraging the iframes, but making sure you're dodging to the right point and feeling like that flows right into the next move very naturally. In a way, so that I really like that, and that's just stood out to me, and yeah, it's made the fights feel much more fluid in a way that I like.
It's I really dig it. I really like the pace of combat in Bloodborne. It was difficult to go back, so you're right to anticipate that getting used to Dark Souls again is going to be hard. It is a very noticeable transition. It's harder going back than going forward, I think.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I would say, at least in 3, kind of what it translated to for me, and granted, I didn't, beat Bloodborne, so I probably have it less than most people, but was I kind of modified to almost always dodging towards people or trying to dodge directly past people, and then would then immediately attack.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that ends up working. Like that still works in both. Like it's a super hard thing to get over. Like I get stuck all the time in a mindset of I need to roll to the left or right, forgetting that I can roll away or toward.
Yeah, absolutely. Or just specifically toward feels very unnatural.
Yeah,
because you're really depending on those iframes.
Yeah.
And absent of the 93 stats that Dark Souls 2 has, I don't know what to level up to increase my iframes.
I think that it's fixed. Please do, if you're going to correct me, please do so kindly. But
they took out weight finally, right?
Yeah, there's like literally I think 6 stats, whereas Dark Souls had like 12.
Well, the thing is, originally weight was in the game. They just never mentioned it. Originally, it affected your stamina, but none of the items actually have a weight stat, and they never mention it whatsoever. Just people notice that all of a sudden, particularly they'd equip the belt lamp, and suddenly their stamina regeneration would go down because apparently that was coded to be really heavy. And eventually, I believe From just took it out completely.
Yeah, I remember that being the case as well. I remember being really bummed out because I like that belt lamp. Really tie the outfit together. But yeah, in general, like encumbrance is not a thing just because gear really isn't a thing in Bloodborne, which is a bummer.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be any upgrade system for armor.
No. And in fairness, there isn't one in Dark Souls 3 either. I think that just never made enough of a difference for it to really be a thing.
Interesting, yeah. So that's been interesting and fun. I probably play it after we do the show tonight, but I'm really enjoying my time there.
Cool. So one last thing in defense of the enemies picking up your souls.
Oh, sure.
I like that as kind of an extension of the whole playing horse with yourself angle that you have all throughout the series, really. Like, in order to get your souls back, you need to get at least as far as you did before. By adding the enemies onto it, it feels like it is very much in line with you need to be more aggressive. Just the increased demand for aggression that Bloodborne kind of places unanimously throughout it.
And it does that in several ways.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm curious, what weapon did you guys gravitate towards? I don't know how many of all of them that I've seen, but I have really gravitated towards the Saw Spear.
Yeah.
As my weapon of choice.
Saw Spear was kind of my initial one, and then eventually I went to the two-handed sword.
Oh, Ludwig Sully Blade?
Yeah. Mainly because I don't use the gun at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
No, that makes sense. I need to remind myself. The Kirk hammer is really good.
Oh, yeah. That's my secondary.
Yeah, the sword that kind of goes into that. Additionally, the either Logarius's wheel is very good, or the pizza cutter that you get in the DLC. The DLC has a lot of fantastic weapons kind of built into it. That
yeah, I'm intrigued.
It is a shame that you have to wait until not late game, but like mid to 2/3 game in order to access them.
So I've in real life I've been learning over in the Chinatown. One of the fellows in the morning has been teaching me a caning form. Mm-hmm. And I'm using one of the like modern elasticized like fold up canes, such that when I take it out, it just all chink chink chinks into place. And every time it happens, I have the overwhelming urge to play Bloodborne.
Nice. Huh.
Well,
I'm sorry, I don't have anything else to say. I feel like I've talked about Bloodborne enough.
Yeah, right.
For myself.
Yeah, you especially. I will also say I've hit the wall that I was worried about in The Witness, where there's two areas that I know there are puzzles left, and I don't even know where to start for either of them. And so it's just me kind of walking back and forth between those two areas and going, I don't get this.
How close are you to looking up a spoiler?
God, I don't want to. I'm still in the phase where I think if I wait long enough, it'll come to me. For Ben, I am at the grids that are all over wooden lattices, or housed in wooden lattices, and then the grids that are in camo boxes.
Okay.
That places you at all.
I know the camo boxes ones. What are the ones over wooden lattices?
They're like 3x3 grids in a diamond shape, and it's like a little like pagoda house type of thing. That it's like a fence that's a wooden lattice, and all the screens or all the grids are built into the wooden lattice.
Okay. And is that area near the other area, the camo area? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're pretty much right next to each other. Thank God, because if they were across the island, I don't know what I would do.
You'd have longer walks to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep trying.
That's what I'm doing.
Don't look at anything up. But yeah.
Don't look at anything up. I think he's telling me that the answer is etched into the stonework in the ground.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not to the point of grabbing a guide yet.
Okay. If you get to that point, just send me a message and I can give as big of a hint as possible so you don't have to resort to that.
That actually sounds like a very good compromise.
Yeah. It's a puzzle game like Suicide Hotline here.
Oh no.
One thing you can do too, so like try and find like the simplest puzzles and just try and brute force an answer out of it, just so you have a point of reference.
I did that with the camo box, and at least as far as it leads to the second puzzle, it just cannot figure out how they apply to each other.
Okay.
And it turns off the box and makes me go back to the first puzzle every single time I fail. So
Oh, man.
it seems weirdly arbitrary. There are certain puzzles that the game decides like it has this anti-brute force tactic in it.
Yes.
Where it will close the box and force you to go back. And it's easy enough to get back to that point because you've solved it once, so you can solve it again. But it's just a built-in delay. Or maybe it's like, no, really look at this first puzzle so that you understand it.
Yeah, it's saying, hey, you need to figure out the puzzle. You're not going to brute force this and get no meaning from this.
Yeah. But that said, when I'm doing this first puzzle over and over again, and I'm going, it's really simple, and like I traced the right pattern by guessing, but I don't know what other information is here that could have led me to that guess that applies to the next one, or like all the things that I've guessed at have turned out to be wrong. Then I kind of get frustrated. But I knew this was coming. I'll persevere.
If you look up on like the PlayStation 4, you can see like what areas people complete, and the place that you're in now, the jungle, is like one of the lowest completion rates. So not only do people not solve it, but a lot of people don't even find it for one. So yeah,
it must be because it's camouflage.
Yep.
All right, sorry. That is everything for me.
Okay. Cool. Ben, round us out.
Don't got a whole lot. I played a little bit more Tomb Raider, but not too much more. I'm in the middle of a DLC portion of it. That's kind of built into the middle of the game, so that's kind of interesting. It's not very fun, so it's not like a reigning endorsement or anything. And I've also played a bunch of Rocket League, so there we are.
So my usual question, how far do you think you are in this? And also, like, are you planning to see it through?
Are you talking about Rocket League, dude? There's no end to Rocket League.
I know. Sorry. The Rise of the Tomb Raider. Like, it sounds like you're just kind of gritting your teeth and going through it.
Well, there's like they have a DLC, and I think like depending on which game you buy, it might be included in it. Because I ordered mine through Steam, so I don't know if it's like a day one sort of thing or whatever. But it's like a side mission with like a spooky like witch like conjurer or something like that. But like it seems like they're trying to go for like the feeling you get from the Arkham games with like Scarecrow, but it's not really well executed. So it's just, and like the one thing I noticed while playing it is they just really rely on character voice acting exposition. So like there's no like indirect storytelling going on at all. It's all Lara Croft saying, "This is how I'm feeling right now. This is what I'm thinking right now." Like, and so that is something that I kind of don't like about the game. And the other portion of it is, so I got to a point where I finished like one of the objectives I was going for, but now I don't know where to go next because the place that I'm supposed to go, she says like, I'm not ready yet to go there, but it doesn't really give me an indication of what I need to do before going back there.
I'm not ready. Yeah. I need to.
Yeah, exactly. So I might just stop this section and continue on with the game proper, perhaps, but I'm not too heavily motivated to do this, but I don't know. I mean, I think I'll probably see the game through, but it just might be at a slower pace. So, yeah. I got the game Never Alone yesterday as a present, but I have not played it yet. So I will be playing that soon.
That is the adventure side scroller that is about an Inuit tribe, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And it's a co-op game, in fact, because one person can control the dog.
Nice.
So it's an optional co-op game.
Do yourself a favor sometime and go on Steam and go and look through all of the update patches. They have one of the little cartoons they do for each one, and they're all fairly adorable.
For the Never Alone?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh man, the dog's probably like a husky, like a real cute sled dog kind of guy. Oh man. Way into that dog. Sorry, I just looked at images of it. Yep, totally that. Cool. Well, is that all?
That's all I got.
Okay.
I spent most of my weekend watching video games you played instead of playing video games. As a side note, watching Allison play Resident Evil 4 really made me want to play Resident Evil 4.
Oh, man, I've heard so much of that. Allison did such a good job, like hyping that up.
That game's awesome.
I love it so much. That WAF is our most downloaded thing.
Really?
Period. Like,
wow.
I'm talking like all time, anything, like something about that really brought people out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you guys want to button it up?
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you so much for tuning in. In this first episode after Duckstream, after last week, people were commenting, "Hey, that was weird that they were recording during the." God, it's only been a week. Sorry, but yeah, no, nothing's gonna change. We are here. Thank you everybody for participating in Duckstream. If you have, we're going to be doing it. So the next time something like that's going to happen is going to be next year in the springtime. Duck Spring is going to be happening. We are working on the details for that. That is the community-driven version of this, where a bunch of folks who listen to the shows and participate in the Slack put together kind of a longer event with a bit more variety to it. And that is big thumbs up from us on there. And then the next Duck Stream is going to be, sometime in November of next year, because this is just the start. So cool. I'm trying to think of like any stuff that you can do that we haven't talked to death. If you could leave us a rating or review on iTunes, that would be especially useful. And also check out patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. We just put up a new goal for a new show that Gary is going to be heading up, like a call-in relationship advice show that is underpinned by synth music that he writes, called Heartbreak City. We're going to be doing the pilot for that. The REM show is going to be starting up here pretty soon. We're going to be not starting up. It's going to be starting up after the first of the year, but we're going to be working on developing that as it goes along. We had this huge surge that kind of came out the other end a lot quicker than we expected. And so we're trying to get our feet underneath us, but it is a very good problem to have. Am I forgetting anything, guys?
No, I think
you can watch replays of Duckstream on Twitch, right?
Yes, I need to go in and spend like a couple of hours digging out the highlights and stuff like that, making sure everything goes over onto YouTube and is held aside. I want to do more than just bulk import everything if I possibly can. Yeah, but yeah, that is the Twitch channel for that is just twitch.tv/Duckfeed.tv. 2 TVs for stereo. Cool. Well, I've been Kole Ross at Kole Ross on Twitter.
I've been Dennis Furia at dfuria on Twitter.
I've been David Moneysmith at Moneysmith777 on Twitter.
And I am Ben Merkel at Merkelizer on Twitter.
And stick around for some titles. All right. Kind of a dry week for me. Anybody have any they want to throw in?
I got 6.
Holy shit. Wow.
Woo!
All right. First one, which I don't think it'll make it because it's too long, but use piss and vinegar to water down the tears.
I just so my version of that is piss, vinegar, and tears.
That's okay. What I had.
Yeah. Right.
I also have contact juggling babies. I have mouth dusting. I have.
We call that mouth dusting. So.
I have Dark Souls as a car crash. I had.
Sorry, are you cool with me doing like comparable ones as you do? Okay, yeah. I had either Dark Souls is not driving or Dark Souls is not driving, but it is a car crash.
Those are so long.
Yeah.
I have fuck Scott Adams. And I have Seam.
Okay.
Okay, I had 2 additional ones. I had all punk, not as much cyber, and dad joked from nuclear orbit.
I'm just going to do dad joke from orbit because
Okay.
nuclear orbit doesn't make too much sense.
You know,
Hit
All right. Dennis, how about you?
yeah, I just had piss, vinegar, and tears.
I like piss, vinegar, and tears.
Yeah.
I think that is going to be like there are some good ones here. I think that sums it up.
I'm down with that.
All right. Any objections?
Mm-mm.
Okie doke.
objection.
Cool. Well, thanks, guys. I'm going to go to bed because even though I slept 15 hours last night, I'm still incredibly tired from the weekend. So